Have you ever wondered why so many child stars, once adored by the world, often end up paying such a heavy price as they grow older? The dazzling spotlight meant to be the perfect launch pad sometimes turns into a double-edged sword, lifting a child to unimaginable heights while pushing them into a devastating fall. And the story of today's subject is the clearest example of that. Once Hollywood's beloved golden child, Lindsay Lohan has walked a path filled with both brilliance and darkness. Why did a gifted actress, once expected to become an everlasting icon, spiral into addiction, scandals, and endless legal troubles? Who, or what, truly pushed Lindsay from the peak of fame into the depths of infamy? Let's uncover the truth in this video. If one had to find the perfect example of the so-called Hollywood hell for teen stars, Lindsay Lohan would be the clearest proof. From a childhood marked by domestic violence and irresponsible financial management, to being torn apart by the press over every little detail, spiraling into addiction, and watching her career collapse in front of millions of spectators, it can be said that Lindsay went through nearly every curse that a notorious child star could face. Yet it cannot be denied that her recklessness and impulsive actions also played a part in turning her life into chaos and danger. At some point, the past could no longer serve as an excuse to cover up the string of mistakes she continued to make in the present. With Lindsay, people felt sympathy, anger, and confusion all at once, wondering how the dazzling red-haired queen of the early 2000s could spiral so far into such a dark reality. Like so many other child stars, Lindsay's beginnings seemed like a perfect dream, but behind the curtain was a completely different world. She was once regarded as one of the most powerful teen faces, highly influential in the early years of the new millennium. Not only did she conquer audiences through film, Lindsay also ventured into music, quickly rising as America's new entertainment icon. 2004, her fateful year, marked the peak of Lindsay's glory. At that time, she was one of Disney's brightest stars, constantly headlining box office hits. And then, her role in Mean Girls turned her into a cultural phenomenon, catapulting her fame to unprecedented heights. At that very moment, Disney was ready to pay her $7.5 million for her next project, a record-breaking sum never before given to a teenage star. Everyone believed Lindsay was destined to become Hollywood's new queen. But the harsh truth was that the spotlight faded quickly. Lindsay's career and personal life began a freefall. Scandals piled up, lawsuits followed one after another, and relentless media scrutiny completely destroyed her public image. Her tangled love life made the public forget her real talent, focusing only on the shattered fragments of her private world. Few could imagine that behind the dazzling lights and rounds of applause was a childhood riddled with Lindsay's pain. She was born on July 2, 1986 in New York and grew up in Long Island, not in a peaceful home, but one filled with storms and conflict. Her parents, Dinah and Michael Lohan, not only created constant media noise, but also left deep scars on their daughter's path to adulthood. Michael, her father, spent time behind bars for insider trading when Lindsay was just 3 years old. And yet, at that very age, the little red-haired girl was ushered into the entertainment industry as if fate had decided to test her from the very start. Lindsay became a standout child model and made history as the first redhead to sign with Ford Modeling Agency, a dreamlike debut that carried hidden thorns. A prestigious modeling company based in Paris, with branches across the United States, gave Lindsay a rare opportunity from her earliest years. The small girl appeared in campaigns for Calvin Klein Kids, Abercrombie, and starred in over 60 television commercials for major brands like Pizza Hut, Wendy's, and even shared the screen with Bill Cosby in a Jell-O pudding ad. Before she'd even entered kindergarten, Lindsay was already living two lives. One as a child longing for a normal childhood, and the other as a commercial face with immense potential, but that childhood was suffocated by endless parental fights. The constant breakups and reconciliations of her parents left the four children in the family with deep instability. Michael, the volatile father, not only had repeated run-ins with the law, but also served time in prison for a stock fraud scheme when Lindsay was just 4 years old. Meanwhile, her mother, Dina, spoke out many times about the horrors of Michael's violence, even alleging that he once raped her. Dina once tearfully said, "Lindsay saw her father beating me, and that is why she became so troubled." Michael vehemently denied every accusation, but no matter how much he refuted them, the public could not ignore the brutal impact that family history had imprinted on Lindsay. And yet, adversity could not extinguish her light. Despite the emotional wounds, Lindsay still shone and captured the world's attention with her undeniable talent. In 1998, Lindsay Lohan beat out more than 1,500 young hopefuls to land the lead role in the remake of the classic 1961 romantic comedy, The Parent Trap. The story follows a pair of identical twin sisters separated at birth after their parents' divorce. Each girl grows up in a different household, unaware of the other's existence, until fate brings them face to face at a summer camp in Maine. Once they discover the truth, the two girls hatch a plan to switch places, hoping to rekindle their parents' broken relationship. Because the film revolves around twin characters, anyone auditioning had to try out for both roles. And surprisingly, many young viewers, including myself, truly believed they were watching two different actresses. The Parent Trap not only proved Lindsay's ability to carry a leading role, but also earned her a wave of praise from critics. Acting alongside veteran stars like Dennis Quaid and Natasha Richardson, Lindsay not only held her own, but shined far beyond expectations. The film became a major hit, grossing more than $92 million worldwide, and cemented Lindsay as Hollywood's newest child sensation. The role won her the Young Artist Award for Best Leading Young Actress and secured a 3-picture deal with Disney. The first film in that deal was the remake of the 1976 comedy Freaky Friday. The story centers on a mother and daughter who suddenly swap bodies. Throughout the film, each is forced to live the other's life. The mother navigating the chaos of high school hallways, while the daughter shoulders the pressure of a therapy practice and a looming wedding. Freaky Friday quickly became a classic for the Disney-loving 90s generation, pulling in over $160 million globally. What stood out was that Lindsay didn't follow the usual innocent, bubbly image of Disney stars. She embraced a rebellious, rock-chic style reminiscent of Avril Lavigne, giving audiences a sense of maturity that helped her step out of the child star mold. Like many teen idols, Lindsay decided to try her hand at music. Building on her film success, she released her debut single Ultimate, followed by Drama Queen, which was tied to Disney's 2004 movie Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. After just 3 films, Lindsay had already secured her place as a Disney icon and a teen idol admired by millions. But it was her role as Katie Heron in Mean Girls that truly made Lindsay part of pop culture history. The film is now considered one of the most iconic high school movies of all time. Mean Girls tells the story of Katie, a teenage girl returning to the U.S. after years in Africa where she had been homeschooled by her parents. At North Shore High School, Katie is overwhelmed by the complex social hierarchies and cliques. She befriends 2 outsiders who teach her how to fit in. At the same time, Katie quickly catches the attention of the Plastics, led by Regina George, the reigning queen bees who rule through beauty and cruelty. On her friend's advice, Katie agrees to go undercover, plotting to dismantle the Plastics' power and expose their true nature to the entire school. Upon release, Mean Girls garnered widespread acclaim. Exaggerated though it was, the film captured the harshness, competition, and cruelty of high school life with striking accuracy. It also left behind a string of iconic one-liners that have echoed for 2 decades. "I can't go out. I'm sick. Boo, you whore!" Mean Girls became a commercial triumph, grossing more than $130 million worldwide. The role earned Lindsay the Breakthrough Performance Award at the 2004 MTV Movie Awards, where she also made history as the youngest ever host of the ceremony. On stage, Lindsay gushed, "I can't believe I'm hosting the MTV Movie Awards. This is going to be such a great experience." At just 17, Lindsay Lohan seemed to be on top of the world. She graced the covers of major magazines with headlines like, "Why is America obsessed with Lindsay Lohan?" Soon after, she even had the chance to host Saturday Night Live, an honor most stars could only dream of. This was the peak of Lindsay's career, famous, influential, and relentlessly chased by the public and the press. Yet while many still remember her as a cultural icon whose impact stretched over decades, the truth is that Lindsay's reign lasted only a few fleeting years from 2003 to 2006. After that, her once dazzling spotlight began to fade as both her career and public image started to spiral downward. At its peak, family turmoil in New York erupted once again, just before she was set to host the MTV Movie Awards. Lindsay's father, Michael Lohan, then 42, was accused of assaulting his brother-in-law, Matt Sullivan, during a First Communion party held at the family's home in Merrick, New York. He was arraigned in Hempstead District Court on charges of second-degree assault and aggravated harassment. Michael maintained that Sullivan had been drunk and was actually the one responsible for the fight. Just days later, Michael was back in a Manhattan courtroom facing another charge, this time for allegedly assaulting a city sanitation worker. The troubles didn't end there. That same month, Michael was arrested again, accused of theft of services after skipping out on a $800 hotel bill. These back-to-back scandals only threw more of the media's spotlight onto Lindsay. Though she was completely uninvolved, she was still forced to bear the weight of public criticism, as if she had to pay for her father's mistakes. In July 2004, Lindsay turned 18, marking a significant milestone. She decided to leave New York and strike out on her own in Los Angeles. Instead of buying a home, she spent her multi-million-dollar film earnings living in hotels. She stayed a year at the Hollywood Roosevelt, then spent the next 2 years renting 2 adjoining suites at Chateau Marmont, at costs running into hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars per night. Altogether, Lindsay was spending over $1 million annually just on hotel living. As she once explained, "I didn't want to be alone, so staying in a hotel whenever I needed, I could just go downstairs and there was always someone there." Only later would she bitterly realize that this lifestyle was anything but healthy, a dangerous mix of a teenage girl holding millions of dollars, carrying unresolved wounds from family trauma. It was, in essence, the perfect recipe for tragedy. The early 2000s were also a time when Hollywood frequently sexualized its young female stars. Just 1 month after her 18th birthday, Lindsay appeared on the cover of Rolling Stone with the headline, "Hot, Ready, and Legal." Soon after, she posed for a string of provocative photo shoots praised for her mature beauty. Ironically, while the cameras captured Lindsay in sultry adult poses, she was still starring in Disney's family-friendly movie Herbie, fully loaded, aimed at young audiences. Many believe this premature adultification caused Disney to quietly turn its back on her. After Herbie, the studio virtually ended its collaboration with Lindsay, closing a chapter that had been both glorious and tragically ironic. It was hard to believe that at the start of 2004, Lindsay had been Disney's sweet teenage drama queen. And by year's end, her face was provocatively splashed across the cover of GQ. Her fame transformed almost overnight, and with it came the label of bad girl that the media relentlessly attached to her. In truth, Lindsay had never intentionally broken free from her child star mold. It was the tabloid press that constructed this rebellious image, and she, unconsciously, lived up to the role they imposed. She drove a $200,000 Mercedes-Benz convertible, clutched a jewel-encrusted Sidekick phone, and carried luxury designer handbags on her shoulder. At night, Lindsay was a fixture in the hottest clubs, partying with Paris Hilton and her infamous circle until dawn, and entangling herself in headline-making romances with older actors like Wilmer Valderrama. At that moment, Lindsay was the it girl, the very image that millions of teenage girls in the early 2000s longed to become. A glance at her style was enough to transport you straight back to the Y2K era. Rebellious, daring, yet irresistibly captivating. The striking thing was that Lindsay never seemed to force it. She was born with that elusive it factor that made it impossible to look away. Her fame wasn't built on acting alone. Her music career also propelled her further into stardom. Her debut single Rumors climbed to number 6 on the Billboard, bubbling under Hot 100 and sold over 500,000 copies. Her first album, Speak, went platinum almost immediately. At that time, Lindsay stood at the very center of the entertainment universe, one of the brightest stars on the planet, right in the middle of the paparazzi and tabloid frenzy. Wherever she appeared, dozens of photographers swarmed, shouting taunts, waiting for a single slip-up to turn into a screaming headline. Once, in a desperate attempt to escape the paparazzi, Lindsay nearly lost her life in a car accident. But instead of sympathy, the press twisted the story, branding her as reckless behind the wheel, even though it was the paparazzi who had rammed into her car while chasing photos. The relentless pressure took its toll on the young star's body. Lindsay admitted, "I didn't even have time to go to the dentist. When I had a problem with my teeth, the doctor had to come to me. I was constantly exhausted, buried in work." The breaking point came during the filming of Just My Luck, 2006, when Lindsay was harshly criticized for her unprofessional behavior. Reports and crew members complained endlessly about her showing up late or vanishing altogether after all-night partying. That habit not only disrupted production schedules, but also cemented her reputation as an arrogant young star spiraling out of control. As a result, the major roles once tailor-made for her slipped away into the hands of others. Her career, once at a blazing peak, began to derail, opening a stormy new chapter where glittering fame was replaced by scandal, and Lindsay Lohan, once admired by the world, became instead a symbol of downfall. Lindsay Lohan's troubled journey with the legal system, which began nearly 5 years earlier with an arrest for drunk driving, came to a close when a judge officially ended her felony probation. Her long battle with drugs and alcohol had forced the actress into 5 rehab centers, totaling 250 days since January 2007. Over the years, Lohan appeared in court 20 times, stood before 4 different judges, and was found in violation of her probation on 4 occasions, resulting in a 6-month jail sentence. In reality, however, she served less than 2 weeks in jail across 6 days in Los Angeles County, most of them cut short after just a few hours due to overcrowding. On one occasion, Lohan was ordered to serve 35 days of house arrest at her home in Venice, California. In addition, she completed about 67 days of community service, most of it at the Los Angeles County morgue. Lindsay Lohan's scandal-filled path through the whirlwind of the law began in January 2007. That was when she first entered a drug rehabilitation program at the Wonderland Center in Los Angeles. Throughout her 30-day stay there, Lohan continued working on the set of I Know Who Killed Me, as if clinging to a career already on shaky ground. On May 26, 2007, tragedy followed tragedy. The Mercedes-Benz convertible she was driving spun out of control and crashed onto a curb in Beverly Hills. Immediately after the accident, Lohan was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence. She was quickly sent to the Promises Treatment Center in Malibu, her second rehab in just half a year. After 45 days, she was released, fitted with an alcohol monitoring bracelet, a symbol of the strict watch of the court. But just 2 weeks later, on July 24, 2007, Lindsay was arrested again. A woman called Santa Monica police claiming that Lohan had tried to ram her with a car. This time, she faced 3 charges: driving under the influence, cocaine possession, and driving with a suspended license. In August 2007, the actress was forced into rehab for the 3rd time, this time at Cirque Lodge in Sundance, Utah. On August 23, 2007, Lohan formally pleaded guilty to cocaine use and drunk driving. She was sentenced to 1 day in jail, 10 days of community service, a fine, an alcohol education program, and 3 years of probation. By October 5th of that same year, she left Cirque Lodge, but the turmoil hadn't stopped. On November 15, 2007, she served only 84 minutes in Los Angeles County Jail due to overcrowding. 2 years later, on March 13, 2009, an arrest warrant was issued for allegedly violating probation, but it was quickly dismissed when the judge determined it was an administrative error. On October 16, 2009, a Beverly Hills court extended her probation for another year because she had not completed her alcohol program. Judge Marcia Revel warned that if Lohan continued to disregard the court, she would face real jail time. That warning soon became reality. On May 20, 2010, she missed a crucial court hearing, claiming she had lost her passport in Cannes. An arrest warrant was issued, then withdrawn after she posted $100,000 bail. On May 24, 2010, Judge Revel imposed new conditions: a ban on alcohol, weekly drug testing, and another monitoring bracelet. By July 6, 2010, in tears, Lindsay listened as the judge sentenced her to 90 days in jail, followed by 90 days in rehab. Yet photos from the courtroom showed crude words painted on her fingernails, a sign of her defiance. On July 20th, she was handcuffed in court and taken away. By August 2nd, she was released after less than 2 weeks and transferred directly to UCLA Medical Center to begin treatment. On August 24th, she walked free after just 23 days. 2 days later, Judge Eldon Fox relaxed her conditions, allowing her to live at home in West Hollywood. Her attorney optimistically declared, "She has learned her lesson." Yet on September 17, 2010, Lindsay admitted on Twitter that she had failed a drug test involving cocaine and amphetamines. On September 24th, she was back in court, handcuffed in public. Hours later, another judge granted her release on $300,000 bail. On September 28th, she voluntarily checked into the Betty Ford Center in Rancho Mirage. A month later, Fox ordered her to remain in rehab until January 3, 2011, warning that if she relapsed, she would face 180 days in jail. On December 12, 2010, Lohan was involved in an altercation with a staff member, sparking the threat of new charges. By January 3, 2011, she left Betty Ford and moved to Venice, California. On January 4th, Riverside police said she had violated probation during the altercation, but the case stalled when the witness withdrew. On January 27, 2011, disaster struck again. While shopping in Venice, she was accused of stealing a 2500 necklace. On February 1st, police searched her apartment and retrieved the necklace. By February 9th, she was formally charged with felony grand theft. Through February and March, she appeared in court repeatedly, faced with the choice of a plea deal or trial. On March 24th, she rejected the deal and prepared for a preliminary hearing. On April 22, 2011, Lindsay was sentenced to 120 days in jail for violating her DUI probation, along with 480 hours of community service. Her theft charge, however, was reduced from a felony to a misdemeanor. On May 6th, she began community service at the Downtown Women's Center in Los Angeles. On May 11th, her attorney entered a no-contest plea on her behalf. Judge Stephanie Sautner sentenced her to 120 days in jail and 480 hours of community service. A court report stated, "Lohan appears to be continuing to struggle with substance abuse issues." On May 26th, she surrendered to Los Angeles jail but was immediately released to serve her time under house arrest with an ankle monitor. On June 23rd, an alcohol test came back positive, but the judge acknowledged that proper random testing protocols had not been enforced. Still, Sautner scolded Lohan for showing extremely poor judgment by hosting rooftop parties while confined. On June 29th, she was released from house arrest after 35 days and ordered to resume her 480 hours of community service, 360 at the Women's Center and 120 at the county morgue. On July 21, 2011, a report showed she was complying with her community service and fines, but had not begun psychological counseling due to a lapse in her health insurance. By October 19th, Judge Sautner revoked her probation for repeatedly skipping her community service. Lohan was handcuffed in court, then freed after posting $100,000 bail. On October 20th, she arrived late for morgue duty but was given a second chance. On November 2nd, 2011, Sautner sentenced her to 30 days in jail for failing to complete community service. She was also ordered to finish the 53 remaining days at the morgue and attend 18 therapy sessions, with the warning that failure would mean 270 days in jail. On November 7th, she served only a few hours before being released due to overcrowding. By December 14th, 2011, rare good news appeared. A probation report showed she had completed 12 days of morgue work and 5 therapy sessions, prompting the judge to remark, "The morgue seems to be pleased as a morgue can be." In January and February 2012, consecutive reports praised Lohan for staying on track, an about-face from her years of violations. Judge Sautner told her, "You're in the home stretch." And then, on March 29, 2012, Lindsay Lohan was finally freed from felony probation after more than 5 scandal-filled years. In court, she bowed her head to thank the judge for fairness while being reminded, "Live more maturely, stop the nightclubbing, and focus on your work." It was the end of a dramatic chapter, one that Hollywood and the world had followed with every fall and fragile step toward redemption of the once beloved star. After years of scandals and constant exposure under the paparazzi's glare, in 2012, Lindsay Lohan tried to find her way back into the arts. She took a chance hosting Saturday Night Live and transformed into the legendary Elizabeth Taylor in Lifetime's TV movie Liz and Dick. But both projects left audiences disappointed, receiving more criticism than praise. The roles that followed, whether in Scary Movie 5 or the indie film The Canyons, passed by without impact, leaving no real mark. Undeterred, Lindsay began producing and also starred in her own documentary series Lindsay, aired on the Oprah Winfrey Network. The series promised an honest look into her life and her journey through recovery, yet audiences quickly tuned out, dismissing it as dull and ineffective at repairing the tarnished image of the actress. Right at that moment, another scandal erupted. A leaked list of Lindsay's alleged romances with several famous stars, which only deepened her notoriety. Exhausted by the endless paparazzi lenses, Lindsay decided to leave Hollywood and move to Dubai, a place where strict laws protected celebrities' privacy. There, she sought peace, pursued new learning, and explored an interest in Islam. From time to time, rumors surfaced claiming she was working as a high-class escort, though none of these claims were ever substantiated. In 2017, Lindsay Lohan's name once again stirred global headlines, not for art, but for baffling behavior. She was accused of racial insensitivity when she refused to remove her headscarf at an airport. The affected accent she adopted was criticized as cultural appropriation. The backlash grew louder when Lindsay publicly defended Harvey Weinstein, just as he was facing a flood of sexual harassment allegations. But the most shocking moment came in a self-recorded video in which Lindsay attempted to rescue 2 children from their homeless parents, only to be pushed away after they refused her help. That footage turned her into both a punchline and a target of public outrage. And yet, despite it all, many still saw in Lindsay a heart that wanted to do good, though expressed in strange and misguided ways. Amid the chaos, Lindsay made an unexpected return with the reality show Lohan's Beach Club on MTV, where she managed a beach club in Greece. The show helped her regain some goodwill, particularly with appearances on international programs like The Masked Singer in Australia. Then came a turning point in 2021. Netflix cast Lindsay in the lead role of the Christmas film Falling for Christmas. It was not only her first major role in years, but also proof of her transformation. The film received warm praise, not just for its festive charm, but because audiences saw once more a Lindsay Lohan who was professional, focused, and shining on screen, as if she had finally stepped out of the shadows, reclaiming a fragment of her lost stardom. Lindsay Lohan stands as living proof of the pressures and consequences of being a child star in the unforgiving world of Hollywood. A complicated family, relentless media attention, and constant paparazzi hounding all pushed her toward addiction and years of legal trouble. Despite many personal missteps, Lindsay made repeated efforts to rebuild her career and lead a healthier life. Her return with Netflix and new projects shows she is serious about restoring her image and career. Her story also inspires greater empathy for child stars who were thrust into the spotlight too soon and left carrying deep psychological scars. We truly appreciate you watching our video today. Sometimes, a little care and encouragement can change someone's life. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell. Your comments are invaluable to us and greatly inspire the work for our future videos. If you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to share them below. We will continue striving to bring you richer stories and meaningful content. Wishing you health and happiness in all your days. See you again in the next video, and thank you.